Let's talk about police work and delinquency prevention. Police engage in various forms of delinquency prevention. There's the aggressive law enforcement, where they saturate patrols in communities. They target gang members, they arrest gang members for any sort of violation, but it's not very effective. While it may reduce the crime rate, as we already discussed, taking an aggressive role may lower the crime rate, but it also creates poor attitude toward the police. There's further resistance, and it affects the police-community relationship. We discussed that under the broken windows theory earlier. Police in schools. This is an interesting concept. School resource officers. I like the title. It's really just a police officer in school, but they call them school resource officers, which is actually the subject of this week's assignment, because there's certainly a lot of controversy around that. And these are full-time police officers. They're working within the school. Their role is, number one, school safety. They also act as a liaison between the school and the police department. They also help develop programs for juveniles after school or recreational programs, with the whole goal in mind is to keep them active and involved in activities and off the streets and engaging in delinquent behavior. However, as you'll see in reviewing this week's assignment, that sometimes the police in school isn't a great deterrent. But since the topic here is prevention, that is a key aspect. They get involved in school, but there's another side of that discussion that I'll let you guys review in the assignment and provide an opinion on. Types of programs, though, the activities engaged in that the police are involved in is GREAT, the program GREAT, Gang Resistance Education and Training. There's community outreach through the police and school. We've discussed that under delinquency. There's DARE. We've discussed that too. But let's talk about GREAT for a moment. It was developed in Arizona with a group of police departments in an effort to reduce adolescent involvement in criminal behavior. And it was primarily targeting gang behavior. And today, this program can be found in all the states and the District of Columbia. So GREAT has been quite successful in helping children and juveniles remain trouble-free. Another area that police work is attempting to prevent delinquency is in the form of policing. The police, they engage in various forms to prevent or forms of prevention through their specific types of policing. And we've already touched on these earlier, but let's expand on them a little bit more. Community-oriented policing. The community needs the police, as we discussed, for safety and protection, but police need community to report crimes and cooperate in investing crimes. So what is this? This is programs and strategies designed to bring police and the public closer together and create a cooperative working environment. So what was implemented to create such an environment is get out of the car and walk, be seen, police officer, foot patrol. What's that? That's the walking the beat, as they say, putting officers in the public eye. There's not enough research as to whether or not this actually brings down the crime rate, but what does it do? It makes the public in the community feel safer and less afraid of crime. And 7 out of 10 police departments have implemented this type of policing. It focuses on resolving problems at the neighborhood level. What are the needs of that neighborhood? It's not one size fits all. You might have an urban city area versus a rural suburban area. The needs aren't the same for, preventing delinquency. A common feature is community engagement. As I said earlier, developing and maintaining the trust of the community is pivotal to the success of community policing. To build trust, For an effective partnership, the police must treat citizens with dignity and respect. Arrogance, rudeness, and the unnecessary or excessive use of force will obviously diminish the willingness of the community members to engage with and provide information to the police. It must also be recognized that community engagement and mobilization will be easier to achieve in some neighborhoods than in others. For example, establishing trust and gaining the cooperation of citizens is often easier in middle-class communities than it is in poorer communities where mistrust of the police is kind of entrenched, as we kind of suggested in a couple earlier topics. The other type of policing, common type of policing, is problem-oriented policing. It's kind of a feature of community policing. I think it goes hand in hand. Problem solving or problem oriented policing, it's interchangeable. Problem solving differs from the traditional policing in that it is proactive rather than reactive. The aggressive way of law enforcement is more reactive. Problem solving is based on the belief that crime and disorder can be reduced in small geographic areas by carefully studying the characteristics of problems in the area and then applying the appropriate resources, and on the assumption that individuals make choices based on the opportunities presented by the immediate physical and social characteristics of an area. The theory behind that problem-oriented policing is actually kind of simple. Underlying conditions create the problems. These conditions might include the characteristics of the people involved, the juveniles or the offenders, the potential victims, residents, other individuals, the social setting in which these people interact, the physical environments, and the way the public deals with these conditions. A problem created in one of these conditions may create one or more incidences. These incidences, while stemming from a common source, may appear to be different. For example, social and physical conditions in a deteriorated apartment complex might generate burglaries, acts of vandalism, intimidation of pedestrians by rowdy teenagers, and other types of incidences. So these incidences, some of which come to the police attention, are symptoms of the problems. The incidences will continue as long as the problem that creates them persists. So problem solving requires the involvement of the public in identifying and prioritizing a wide array of community problems, some of which are not criminal, of course, such as the presence of abandoned cars on neighborhood streets. It's not criminal, but it might lead to the whole broken windows issue where abandoned car then gets damaged, continues to get damaged, another car gets damaged. The traditional concept model of problem solving, SARA, followed these 4 steps. SARA: scan, analyze, respond, assess. Scan involves identify problems and prioritize them according to community input. Analyze, you want to study the information about the juveniles, the offenders, the victims, the crime locations. Respond, implement strategies that address the chronic character of priority problems by thinking outside of the box of traditional police enforcement tactics, and use new resources that were developed by the community to support problem-solving efforts. Then assess, evaluate the effectiveness of the strategy through self-assessments to determine how well the plan has been carried out and what good has been accomplished. So determining the underlying causes of delinquent behavior and delinquent problems requires an in-depth knowledge of the community and its issues. This is where community engagement and information sharing between the police and the public becomes particularly important. So some examples of community problems. Well, I gave the apartment complex one already. An apartment complex with a high rate of burglaries and a high level of fear among its residents would be a typical community problem. Panhandling that creates fear in a business district. Disorderly youth who regularly assemble in a parking lot of a convenience store. Drug dealing, gang activity, intoxicated drivers. So problem solving can also involve reducing the number of occurrences of a specific problem. So drug dealing and associated problems such as robbery or gang activity may be decreased if the police, community members, and social service agencies, such as health centers, set up a rehabilitation and counseling facilities to reduce drug use. That's an example. But I kind of digress there on problem-oriented policing. But I think both of these are very important, and these are types of policing that police departments are implementing slowly but surely, but they're implementing them as part of their training and policing. So what is the future of juvenile policing? What is it? What does it look like? Well, there are many challenges ahead. If you have been watching TV, social media, and the like, police are under the microscope. There's been calls for reform, rightfully so, and even defunding. But some specifically related to juvenile offenders, there are many challenges: witness intimidation, racial profiling, poor relations with communities. These are the challenges that the police face addressing juvenile offenders. Transparency, accountability. How about fairness and discretion? These are all areas of importance that police need to make progress in. Future strategies into police working with juveniles include the implementation of technology, such as they call soft technologies, like IT systems to enhance police operational and administrative decision making, such as crime analysis. That's for their departments in and of themselves, an IT system that allows them to do that. Using various forms of surveillance technology, such as closed circuit television. Enhancing community-based policing services to strengthen relationships, police involvement in schools, as well as increase problem-oriented policing. I think the bottom one is probably the most important one for future strategies. Police in schools, again, a very controversial subject. I will let you think about that a little further and address it during this week's assignment. So that concludes this discussion on police work with juveniles and their handling of juvenile delinquency. The next topic we're going to dive into is the juvenile court process.